Today, I am so excited because we're doing a different kind of podcast. I'm talking to a software company today, essentially. A software company that has really changed my life. Without this software, I would not have the business that I have today. I am not a coder, I would say. I don't code websites. They frustrate me. When I got WordPress in the beginning of my blogging journey, I used to pull my hair out of my head until I found, drumroll please, Leadpages, which makes sales pages so much easier. So today we have a special guest on, Bob Sparkins. As the sales marketing manager at Leadpages, he champions the customers of the top landing page and website building conversion platform and the audiences they serve. A former high school history teacher and academic team coach, Bob has taught business owners around the world how to leverage digital marketing to impact more people with less effort since 2006. He is the author of Take Action, Revise Later, and lives in Bloomington, Minnesota with his wife, Therese, and their amusing kids, Kira and Landon. I'm so excited for Bob to be on today because he's going to give actionable tips on how to get more leads in your business and close more sales, even to the point where I'm taking notes and I'm going to change some things that I do. And I would consider myself a master user of Leadpages. So this is a really great episode and I'm really excited to dive in. You are listening to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, a mom of two and your secret weapon to creating a six-figure digital product business. I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women make $100,000 a year. That's right, $100 million towards financial independence for women. As an online business expert, I am teaching you everything I know right here week after week, so you can join us on the journey to $100 million. Sound good? Then let's jump in. Bob, welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Monica. It's great to be here and love everything that you're doing.
Yeah. So this is my first time interviewing someone on the podcast that's from software that we use. So this is going to be a little bit of a different interview, but exciting because I've been using Leadpages, like I told you, I feel like forever. Well, in my entrepreneurial journey, I have been using it forever. And I started using it mainly because it was easy and WordPress was not easy. These are things I get asked all the time, so they're things I want to talk about. But before we dive into my questions, I would like to know about your journey. I usually say entrepreneurial journey, but it's a little different for you, but yet not, because you do have an entrepreneurial journey, yet you do work for Leadpages. So I'd like to just know more about you, like how you got started and how you ended up at Leadpages.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. Thank you. We can do the very short version that includes a few steps. So one, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm at Bob the Teacher. And the reason that I'm Bob the Teacher is because I've been a professionally trained teacher for a decade in a high school history classroom in Maryland back in the day. I started to get that itch that many teachers do where it's not enough reward and not enough financial reward, testing, all that stuff. So I decided to try to add extra income. And so I tried out a few different things, some direct sales, affiliate marketing, et cetera. And some of it I was really good at, but what I found I was the most good at, if that's a word, is teaching people how to do things that they didn't know how to do online. And so I became a trainer of those tools like autoresponders and how to do a website and all these types of things. And eventually I did leave the classroom and I started a 10-year business that incorporated both training as well as business coaching. And then along the way, I discovered Leadpages too, just like a lot of people do. It was back in 2012, a pre-launch. I'm customer number 33. So I was on the list of Clay Collins, the co-founder of Leadpages. And he says, hey, I know a lot of you love the templates I've been giving away, but what if I made it easier and created a system where you could just have the templates ready to go and you could move things or add things to them and deploy them, have them connected to your email systems, et cetera. So that's great. So I was one of the very first customers, and then I became an affiliate and trained on it for the next couple of years, meaning as an affiliate, I was teaching other people on behalf of myself, not Leadpages, but getting a commission, doing workshops. I moved to Minnesota and Clay invited me to breakfast after about a year and said, why don't you just do this for us full time? And so I kind of thought about it and I was like, well, I've got this really cool entrepreneurial pursuit. And then on the other side, I have a potential 9 to 5-ish sort of job. There's, remote work involved and stuff like that. But I could continue teaching and doing what I love to do as a business coach but just all for Leadpages. And so I signed up in 2014. So for the last 7 years almost, I've been teaching entrepreneurs, business owners, people who are just out of the gate, out of corporate or out of some other job or returning to the workforce after parenting for a number of years and deciding, hey, I want to generate some income from what I know or know how to do. And I've been doing that ever since. And obviously we have tens of thousands of customers that range the gamut from now. So I love to do podcasts like these, webinars. I still do the business coaching for Leadpages on a weekly call that we do for customers, and just have a lot of fun along the way. So that's the entrepreneurial journey. And I'm also married to an executive coach who's also an entrepreneur. So I get to still deploy Leadpages on her behalf for her business and see what it's like to continue running a business during and after, hopefully soon after COVID and all the stuff that's been going on in the recent past.
So basically, for you right now, your whole thing is Leadpages. You don't really have any individual entrepreneurial pursuits outside of your wife's business.
That is correct.
So was it a big change for you when you decided to go full-time?
It was. I mean, in one respect, it was, a lot of my entrepreneurial friends were like, what are you doing? A job is that's got to suck. It's a soul-sucking day job, because they had been so burnt out by whatever experience they happened to have. And as a teacher, I got burnt out after a while. But when Clay said to me, we basically want you to do what you're doing just under our umbrella, that was very easy, right? The transition was very smooth. And then also I have a team of people that I get to collaborate with on an ongoing basis. So I didn't have to continue to find a new virtual assistant or find freelancers to work with or all these other things that as an entrepreneur you have to do. And that's fun and it can work well. And some of you are solopreneurs and you want to do it all yourself and you want to do a individual freelancer for a month or two, or you might bring on a team and scale up and have, 20 people working like so many people do. But for me, I love the consistency of working for Leadpages from a job perspective, from an income perspective, because entrepreneurial pursuits also can mean, roller coaster
sure
incomes,
can.
And so that's a perk, health benefits and all that kind of stuff. What I really love about it the most, and when I don't anymore, I won't, but what I love about it is I still get to do what I do well, which is to teach and to impact the lives of people through the education I can provide to them, and using Leadpages as part of the gateway drug, I guess, into becoming a better marketer for people, right? And so because they're able to be a better marketer faster, they gain more confidence, and then that confidence breeds additional value for the stuff that they bring to the table. So yes, it was weird, but I love it.
I love how you referred to Leadpages as a gateway drug into online marketing.
Yeah,
because I would agree. I would go as far to say if I hadn't discovered Leadpages, I don't know if I would have gotten to where I am, because coding and all of that stuff was just, I used to get very angry at night. My husband used to ban me from working on my website, after the kids went to bed, because I'd get super angry and then it would just ruin the night. So he started banning me. Actually, one of the first investments we made was for a tech guy on WordPress because he couldn't handle listening to me. And then I found Leadpages and I'm like, oh, my life is so much better. Even I don't code and I can spin up a really good sales page on Leadpages now in under 30 minutes, like a really good one that converts. So that's like an amazing feat for someone like me. So I always say, if I can do it, you can do it. And I totally credit Leadpages with that. So with that being said, a lot of people might not even understand what Leadpages is. So what is the standard line that you give for what Leadpages does?
We are, first of all, a Minneapolis-based software company with a great support team, a great product team, and obviously education. But as far as what you get out of Leadpages, you get a software platform that does make it easy for you to look at online, turn clicks into clients. Turning clicks into clients is our primary tagline. And basically what we want you to do is, you're on social media, you have an email list that's growing, you have personal contacts. When somebody decides to find out more about you, what are they going to find? They go to the link in bio off of Instagram. What are they going to see? Well, with Leadpages, you have a way to make that first experience that they have with you very positive, and most importantly, convert. convert into a subscriber, a new lead, or convert them into a buyer as a new customer. And I'm sure we're going to get into some questions about tactically, like when to use what types of pages or whatever. But ultimately, Lead Pages helps you look good and convert strangers into leads and customers.
My Instagram bio goes to a landing page that I built on Instagram. And, a lot of people use Linktree off of Instagram,
Yep.
which is like a free app. It essentially just they're buttons that you can click over to whatever the thing is you're promoting or talking about. But I use a lead page and it has like the call to action buttons. I have gotten more questions on what I use. I'm like, it's a landing page that I built on Lead Pages, but people think it's like just so much better than anything they've seen. It takes 2 seconds to build. It's actually quite easy.
I just wanted to reiterate, I love that people are using Lead Pages for their Instagram link in bio, because you can just do so much more than what Linktree or any other service allows. You can do the same thing. You can stack your buttons up, but you can have a call to action that actually gets people to sign up to something right there on that page instead of directing to somewhere else.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, we don't use a built-in form on that page, and we really should. So I'm marking that down as an action item when I get. And here's the other cool thing about Lead Pages. So we have multiple brands. We actually have 3 Instagram accounts, 2 are active. I can use the same landing page and mask it to each domain that I own. So like instead of it being my Lead Pages, because sometimes Instagram doesn't like the Lead Pages domain, they get a little antsy about like the redirects on it. So I always mask it to my domain because it just looks better too, like redefining mom.
It brands you.
Yeah, it brands me. So I do that, but I can use the same lead page and mask it behind all of my domains. And it's so much easier. And it's a cohesive experience, in my opinion. So I don't know, it's worked really well. Okay, so here's the thing. When I started on Lead Pages was not a place to build a website. There were landing pages and what at the time we called lead boxes, which were the pop-up boxes. Now I think we just call them pop-ups. I still call them lead boxes. Yep. It's very hard for me to get away from that terminology after a while. But that was like the 2 main features of what Lead Pages did when I signed up. Now you can actually build an entire website, but it's not the same as what you would necessarily build on WordPress. And I get this question all the time. So can we start first with the differences between what a lead page site is and a lead page landing page is, and then talk about how it compares to something like WordPress?
So I do get this question a lot as well, so you're not alone. First of all, a landing page, let's start there. Landing page is simply the first page you go to after you have clicked something else. So from an ad, a social post, whatever. A good landing page is focused on one thing and one thing only, and there's no navigation on it. There might be a footer with some navigation, but there's no like menu up at the top. There's no sidebar. There's no distraction. It is 100% focused on a problem that the visitor is currently experiencing and a solution that you have. And that solution can come in the form of what we call a lead magnet, which is a free downloadable thing, or a video that you would watch, or a webinar that you might experience, or PDF, white paper, whatever. But you get it in exchange for an email address. But a landing page can also be a sales page. It is focused on the conversion point of buying something. A website, as comparison, you have a menu, you have a lot of other stuff. There's usually the typical website is designed for information, whereas a landing page is designed for conversion. Since we are in the conversion marketing business, along the way, about 5 years ago, we decided that we would stop saying no to all the people asking us, why can't I use Lead Pages to make a website? And we decided to say, well, let's make a website. But we don't want to make a website like the traditional websites because they're already there. WordPress is a great system. If you have a team of people to help you manage it, and you're willing to be up to date with plugins and themes and all that stuff, it works really, really well. We use Lead Pages on our marketing. We also use a WordPress site for our marketing. There's no reason to not use both other than it's complicated. The traditional websites for information. What we wanted to do is build a website builder that was focused on conversion instead. So you still have the opportunity for a menu, but every element of the website that we have is designed around converting that new visitor into a subscriber or a customer. And so when you want to use a website, and this can be a primary website or a secondary website, we'll talk about the differences in a minute. But if you want a website where you don't need to update posts every afternoon, if you're a serious blogger who's writing every couple of days or once a week even, you may still want to use WordPress. But if you have like 5 to 7 articles that you want to write over the course of the next year, or you want to knock them out in one shot and then not write again because that's not your thing, then a Leadpages website is really ideal for you. You have the ability to make as many pages on it as you want, but an ideal Leadpages website will have like 3 or 4 top menu items, maybe 2 or 3 sub menu items, but they're all focused around converting the one thing that you want them to do. Maybe a second thing. So it could be like a lead magnet and maybe a consultation. But what Leadpages is not good at as a website builder is it's not a store like you might want to use with Shopify, where you have 50 different products that you're trying to showcase at the same time. That's not what we do. But if you're a knowledge broker, as we like to call it, someone whose expertise is what you're selling, and you have a suite of 4 to 6 products, for example, over time, or you're just getting started with your very first product, then having a Leadpages website is going to simplify your life. It's going to remove a lot of the tech headaches. You won't want to defenestrate your computer every afternoon. And instead, you'll want to show it off, and you'll actually want to spend more time doing things other than working on your site. So if you feel like you are in this morass of complication with your website, try Leadpages. I think you're going to really love it.
Yes, I agree. We actually did finally build a site that we use actively on Leadpages. It took a while. At first, I was like, what am I going to use this for? At this point, I'm invested in WordPress. But like you said, Redefining Mom was born as a blog based. So we needed the ability on WordPress to publish regular blog posts. Then I branded it myself under monicafrose.com, and we were releasing a podcast. So we needed like a blog function to be able to do podcast notes. But when I broke off my brands, in came another brand, Empowered Business, which is where all of my B2B, how I teach women how to build digital product businesses. And that we built, empoweredbusiness.co, we built on a Leadpage site. Wow, does it make my life a lot easier. There's no need for a blog there because the podcast lives on the other site. And it's all meant to educate on what our product suite is. So we want you to do one of 2 things, essentially. Like you said, you can have a very honed in action. We want you to get on our email list, or we want you to invest in our product suite. That's it. And then we do have a Shopify store as well. See, and I try to explain this. When people come into the online business world, it seems very overwhelming. Leadpages, in my opinion, especially when you're talking about landing pages and stuff, kill it with going out there and collecting cold leads. So people who don't know about your business, people who you're trying to bring into your top of your funnel. And Shopify we use for what I consider my warm audience, who are like, hey, you have a lot of stuff you're selling. It's kind of annoying to have to go through individual funnels to like see what you have to offer and buy the stuff you have to offer. So I give them a cohesive shopping experience with Shopify. But what you'll find out, in my opinion, is that Shopify doesn't really give any urgency. Even when you give coupon discounts, honestly, urgency is very hard to accomplish with Shopify. So if we push Shopify first, conversions tank. So that actually brings up another conversation of urgency, like the importance of urgency. What do you think about the importance of urgency?
Well, it's critical, first of all. And to take a step back, I would also say, just speaking about Shopify, is one of Leadpages' kind of philosophies that has been underpinning for a long time is we play well with others. And so you can use us with WordPress or without. You can use us with Shopify or without. So I wanted to mention that. But as far as urgency goes, urgency usually in our world takes the form of a countdown timer, right? So you get to a page and you see that there is something for sale, or even for free. And you have to actually take action within the next 20 minutes or the next 3 hours or the next 5 days. And maybe we should talk in a minute about the ideal urgency range. But without that, you have a bunch of procrastinators on the other side of the computer screen who think that it's just going to be here forever. And so they look at the page and they say, oh, that looks interesting. It looks good. I should probably buy that. But I'm not like drowning with this problem right now. And if I'm not personally drowning with this problem right now, I don't have an internal sense of urgency. But as a marketer of your business, your job is to help people make decisions. One of the early lessons I learned from Clay Collins that I take to this day is that if you could learn this one thing about your business, it'll make a huge difference. You are not in the business of getting people to buy your product. You're in the business of getting people to make decisions. If you change your approach to saying you need to decide whether it's yes or no, that's up to you. But if you just decide, then your business is going to grow. Because what kills most businesses, especially when you're starting out, is the lack of decision that people are making when they come to your page, because they feel like they have all the time in the world or they can come back later to it. They just don't have to make up their mind right now. But if you can say, hey, look, now or never moment, basically, and you can actually enforce it with a real legitimate countdown timer that hits 0 and the page disappears or the page changes to a different offer entirely, then you actually can have that urgency. So urgency can be internal for the end user. It can also be because there's a limited number of them that you have, especially if you're dealing with personal relationship sort of businesses. And price can obviously be a thing too. It doesn't always have to be a discount. But if you can put a countdown timer on your page, it says you need to decide within the next 20 minutes or whatever the time is, or this particular offer is going away, you'll get people to say, yes, I want this, or you know what, I don't actually need this. And that's okay too. Your job again is to get people to decide instead of procrastinate.
So urgency time frame. You have an opinion on this?
I do.
I would love to hear it.
There's not a real rocket science around the calculation, but this is something that you want to experiment with. The answer, of course, is going to be it depends. But what it depends on are these factors. So first of all, how much is it? If you come to a page and a free thing, then you could have a timer for 5 minutes or less and say, this is free for the next 5 minutes. And if the timer hits 0, you can have another timer that says, I'm giving you another chance. Or you can say, the timer hit 0, you missed out for it being free. Now it's $1, or it just disappears entirely and you can't have it. There's a lot of different options. But for a price of sales, if you're depending on your market, and you might be in different parts of the world, but in my world in the US, anything under $100 is typically like, I don't have to go ask a spouse about this. I don't have to think about this. I don't have to check my bank account for it. And if that's the situation for most of your audience, then a 20-minute timer is very effective for especially a discounted price. So if your normal price and the regular price is something like $100 and you say you can get this for $50 as a new subscriber special or whatever, 20 minutes is plenty of time for them to realize that they have that time to watch whatever video you have, if you have one, read the page, etc. When the 20-minute timer goes off, what I like to do is say, you missed out, but I've got a second chance offer for you. And now for the next 24 hours, I'm going to give you, and this is usually incorporated with some email follow-up too. Instead of $50, it might be 75, for example. So still better than 100. You're teaching your audience every single interaction they have with your landing pages. You're teaching them what to expect from you the next time. And so if they come to the page and it hits 0 and nothing changes, you're teaching them that urgency actually doesn't matter to you at all. And I see this mistake a lot. I see a lot of people have the timer hit 0. It stays on the page as hitting 0. Nothing actually changes. So the next time you have an offer via email, they just like, I don't really need to decide because they're not actually following up on this. But if you actually have the timer there, do it. The biggest thing I see, Monica, with timers is people think about with a launch, or especially when it's a live event, for example, or a webinar or virtual summit, something like that, they'll put the timer to when the thing starts, as opposed to when I need to decide to join it. Okay. So, we're doing this recording in the middle of the summer of 2021. Say we're in September, right? And it's September 1st when we're writing our page. And then we have a virtual summit coming up October 15th. When somebody has a page like this, what I typically see them do is say, hey, we've got a virtual summit coming up and it starts on October 15th. So the countdown timer says you have 45 days until we begin.
I do this.
Right?
Yep, I'm listening.
and there's no sense of urgency about that. That doesn't matter to anybody that's 45 days away. It's kind of fun on thank you page to count down to it. It's fun to have the page where you're telling people all the information after they've signed up. But when you want them to sign up, you need to give them a reason to do so now. And so any countdown timer that's more than 48 hours out doesn't have any urgency to it at all. It's basically useless to you as a conversion tactic. It might be informational, might be kind of cool and interesting looking. But from a conversion perspective, what you want to do is say, this event is not for a couple more weeks, but you have, early access ticket, you have VIP access, you have bonuses that you can get. And then every 2 days, you basically are refreshing what's that offer and changing it even just a little bit to consistently have that urgency. So whether it's a webinar or a virtual summit, any of these types of things, think of what you want to do. I remember Clay in a conversation we had once during a program we taught, this is probably 6 years ago. He mentioned if he ran a bar, he would have a bar that had a countdown timer towards happy hour. and when the next happy hour was, and when the next happy hour was. And that would be like over top of the bar, above all the, the top shelf stuff. So just when you're thinking about countdown timers and urgency, use them to actually get people to make that decision, and think of creative ways to compel that, even when what you're trying to talk about is weeks away.
Wow. I mean, I'm really good at getting leads into my business. I will say I don't struggle with this, but I did not do it this way. And now my mind is like, I want to like change. We have a webinar coming up in actually about 40 days. I just flipped the entire funnel from the last one, and it's sitting there with the timer being informational, the countdown to when I'm going to be presenting. And we're going to run Facebook ads to it. And I'm like, holy cow, I never thought of that. That's so much smarter. Kind of just.
Yeah. And at the very least, there's gray lines here, and we're a very ethical company. So this is not done just for the sense of hype, but you can use language like, this is free for the next whatever, or this is $50 for the next whatever. It doesn't say it's only this for the next whatever, or you have to buy it or the price will be more. There are some inferences that you can have people draw on their own. And then what you would do is with Leadpages, as you may recall, Monica, you can have your timer hit 0 and then just hide a section. Okay. And when the timer hits 0, you can hide a section and reveal another section. The new section would just not have a timer on it at all. And it would still say, you can do this for whatever the price is, or do it for free. Or for your business, if you're doing a summit or a webinar long time in the future, we have a timer called an evergreen timer, right? So it's one of the 3 options. You can either do it by date specifically, evergreen timer, which is you have 10 minutes or you have 45 minutes or you have 3 days, whatever. And then you have a daily timer. And the daily timer resets every day at a certain time, noon, 4 o'clock, midnight, whatever. And the next day, when people visit the same page, that timer is there again. And then the next day, the timer's there again. So you'll see that often used. And if it's used responsibly or ethically, it basically helps people make that decision, but it doesn't say something that isn't true. So just be careful when you're using a timer that you're not saying things like, this is only this today only. Instead, say, today, it's only this. You see the difference semantically? I do. Then that's only as adjective towards the price as opposed to the time.
Wow. Like my mind is, there are so many ways I could have used urgency differently. Okay, I do have a question. So I actually, all my products that are 47 and below, we do set the timer, quick action timer at 20 minutes. So I feel like I got that one nailed. So we set it for 20 minutes. You land on the page, countdown starts. At the end of the 20 minutes, it goes to a redirect page, also built on Leadpages. Okay, here's the big thing about Leadpages. Duplicating pages makes my life so easy. This is why I can spin up very complicated funnels in very little time, because it's like duplicating. So I take what we call the tripwire page, the limited time offer page. I duplicate it, take off the timer, change the price back to the full price. And that's what happens. That's the page goes away. And is that typically how you would see it being used, or am I missing something here?
No, okay. That's typically how I see it used. But I would say you could do one of 2 things differently that might work better, might not. So one is that when the timer hits 0, you can have on the same page the different sections that show that price instead of sending them to a different page. Okay. And the reason that you might want to do that is just for simplicity of managing all your pages. However, what you wouldn't see in that regard in Leadpages specifically is how many people bought at this price versus the other price. You would need to use your Stripe checkout data to show you what that situation is. And you would have conversion rates separated out by the 2 different pages. So then you could see your page converts at 47 for this page. And then when the price is 97, it converts at this. And so that's easier to see that conversion. But the big thing that I love to teach people to do, which I referred to it earlier, is, did you say 47 is the max of the price, or that's the normal price?
Usually I set it for 20 minutes if the product's 47 or below.
Okay. And then the normal price, though, let's just pick one product. What's its regular price? What is your discounted price?
It would be like 97 to 47 or 67 to 37. Usually that would be like the
okay,
split.
Great. So the one thing I encourage people to do is after that 20-minute timer is up, have a new either section revealed or another page redirected that's a $67 offer instead of 97. So don't just jump up to the full price. Give them another chance to save money, even though it won't be as awesome of a deal. And then let that be for a day. so that you can coordinate an email campaign alongside it. You mentioned you're using ConvertKit. When you have somebody buy, your system with Leadpages after they purchase will tell ConvertKit, hey, they're a customer now, right? Well, in ConvertKit, you can say, if they haven't bought within this amount of time, then send them a second message that says, hey, you missed out, but I'm still going to give you $30 off if you are able to act in the next 24 hours or something like that. And then they still have that other chance to save. So for those 97 to 47 jump, you have this gap that you can fill with a second offer. And that usually results in a nice boost in income. And people still feel like, I got a good deal. Next time when Monica tells me something's a good deal, I'm going to act on it. But I still feel like I got the right price. And also what it does is it eliminates the occasions of when people email you and say, I was on vacation, or, my kid threw up and I had to leave and the computer like refreshed the screen while I was gone. Can I still get this deal? If you can say, I've got a secondary deal, it's not as awesome, but basically no excuses sort of thing. You can still do what you want to do. It's your business, but it eliminates a lot of those types of situations where people are complaining they missed out for whatever sob story reason, legit or not, and says, well, they can just reflect on their own. Well, I missed it, but this is still pretty good. I'm going to take advantage of it.
What's nuts to me is I really would consider myself very well versed on Leadpages at this point. And for whatever reason, I've never done the hide and unhide page. Like, we do hide sections when we're manually flipping things over. Like, let's say we're running in like 48-hour early bird. So I always set it for Eastern time because I'm not up at 3 a.m. Pacific time to unhide the right, sections of the page or whatever. Why have I never used it that it can do it itself? I'm like, that's such an obvious feature. I probably could have saved myself a lot of time, to be honest with you, if I had used this feature.
It makes a big difference, but also you point to something else that I don't think people really appreciate about Leadpages that you cannot do in WordPress. You can pre-create sections that you hide from view that are in your Leadpages account. They're inside the page itself. They're in the builder. Every page is made with sections and then rows and then columns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, every individual section can be hidden by yourself with that little click of the eyeball icon, right? And so you can plan out an entire series of like, when am I going to release what content, and have it right there on the page and then just go click the button. I remember back in the day in 2006 and 7, when I was starting my business using Front Page and all this other wacky stuff, I used to do a sale for the halftime of the Super Bowl on halftime sales. One of my favorite things to do. It was really fun. Only 31 minutes during the halftime could you actually buy this one thing. But I'd have to sit there and do all the things in real time, and then in real time change it, and then in 10 minutes later and change it. When the sale was over, they go back into that page and change it. Now, you're able to pre-do these sections, have the buttons to hide them, and then make them visible when appropriate. There's a lot of things about sections that I think people learn to love about Leadpages, whether it's mobile device specialization or optimization, the countdown timer stuff, different backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will say the sections have saved us so much time. We did it was kind of accidental. It was when coronavirus started. We were like, oh, what do we do now? Like, this is a world that we have not operated in when it comes to internet marketing. And, no one really knew what was going to happen. So we kicked off what we called a template extravaganza at the time. And a lot of people come to us and are like, I want to quit my 9 to 5 and I have no idea what I'm going to do, or like, I don't have enough time. So, when you templatize stuff, it makes it easier for people to get up and running. Now, suddenly, even my real world friends, and I say that in quotations, were like, what do you do on the internet now, Monica? It's like, oh, now you care. I see how this is. So we did it. We styled it as weekly drops, and we pre-built everything and then just had sections. So we could flip it around very easily. Week 1 drops here, and then we had a countdown to the next drop. And then all we had to do was unhide. We didn't have to build it every week and be stressed out that we had to flip it at a certain time and still had to build it all in there. It makes running urgency type promotions, in my opinion, so much easier. So I am a big fan of that too. Okay, so here's another question I get. I think this will probably be our last one, but this is a really big one that I get from people who are getting started. And I have to imagine that being at the company, you guys have a lot of data amongst what converts and what doesn't, right? Like, because you have the back end data for everything that's happening on Leadpages. I don't know why people obsess about this. in my opinion, you have to just try, but people don't want to try. They want an answer, which is, what is your thought on long versus short, either opt-in page or sales page? Because people obsess about this. And I get to the point where I'm like, can you just try something? I find the question annoying after a while. What do you think about that?
I've never heard that question before, Monica.
No?
I'm totally kidding. It's pretty much daily. And it reminds me of, back in the day when I was a high school teacher, how long does this essay need to be?
Yes.
And it's as long as it needs to be to get the job done, right? So you do your thesis, you have some support, and then you're done with examples and whatever. Same thing applies here. You test it out. So I think that your try something is very important. My business motto is take action, revise later. And the idea behind that, of course, is you do something and then you see if it worked or not. And then you try a different thing and see if it works better. Using split testing, by the way, in Leadpages is super easy to do. And this is a great way to figure out for your business, for your audience, which is best. If you were to go to leadpages.com/templates right now and click the button that says sort by conversion rate, this will help you answer the question.
I didn't know you could do that.
A standard thing. Yeah, the normal display is already by that. And then you can sort by newest and sort by industry and all this stuff. But since we're such a conversion focused business, that's how we show it off. And so if you look at the first 2 or 3 rows of the templates, they're almost entirely one section. Maybe a footer section might be separate, but it's basically a hero section with a headline, maybe a subheadline, a call to action button, and that's the entirety of the page. Okay. So if you were to start with one and then want to experiment, your control should be shorter than longer, especially for landing pages where you're converting to a subscriber. People don't really need a lot of information about you even. They just need to know that your headline is compelling, that they identify the challenge that you have specified, and you have made the downloadable thing or the video that you're going to show attractive and compelling enough to want to sign up for it. Because people do prize their email address. So you have to give them the goods. But it may be the case that you do need to have a little bit more information. So you might have a second section, you might have a third section. Sales pages are obviously different. The more expensive a product is in general, the longer the page will need to be because you need to justify the value that you're bringing to the table, the authenticity that you bring, the credibility that you bring, the empathy that you have, et cetera. But generally start shorter and then go longer with the experiments. And then just test it out, run enough traffic to it so that you can actually see real data. So that means trying to get at least 100 conversions to each version of a page before you declare a winner, because otherwise there isn't enough data there to justify statistically that it's accurate. A lot of people do a split test and they'll see one's converting at 38%, the other one's at 25%, but there's been like 12 visits to each page. And that's like 5 versus 3. You got to let it play out a little bit longer before you obsess over making tweaks and stuff like that.
I'm so glad you said that. So I spent 4 years teaching small businesses, mainly content creators and bloggers, Pinterest advertising. And so they had smaller budgets. They would get, I don't know. I just had someone ask me this. They had 36 hits from their pin to their landing page, which they built on Leadpages because I taught them how. And they're like, we didn't get a conversion. I'm shutting everything down. I'm like, whoa, there are like a million reasons why you didn't get a conversion yet. 36 pages. I mean, did they even let the page load from the pin? There's so many factors. Was your pin good? Was it pre-framing what they were going to? Did they understand they were going to be asked to take an action? Like I could go on and on, but 36 page views tells you nothing. So very common question. A lot of people want to focus on how many people should have seen the page. I love how you just flipped that. I'm going to use this. I'm stealing this for my students. And you flipped it and said, I want you to have 100 conversions before you make a call. When we say conversions, I feel like for this, we're particularly talking about getting the email conversion because 100 sales conversions, for a lot of people starting out, that's a little bit more. But for an email conversion, that seems completely reasonable to me, especially if you're running paid ads.
Absolutely. If you're running a sale, I would be checking like every 20 to 25 conversions for each one. But if one page does have 25 and the other one has 2, you can actually make a call. If they have an equivalent amount of traffic, then go ahead and make the change. But we had this just happen this past week at Leadpages. We have a 3-way split test going. And after the first week, we had, I think, about 2,000 visits. And I think it was like 200 conversions for each one or so. No, it was more than that because it was like 30% to 20% was the range of the split test. But after another week, the winner flipped to be a different one. So it's a combination of what you mentioned. What did they click on in the first place? So we tweaked our Facebook ad, and then the other one started winning instead. So it's usually in combination where you want to see which one's converting the best. But the reason you want to pay attention to this, I know for many of you, you're just getting started. The math of conversion rates and all this stuff may not be your first priority. But the reason you want to pay attention to that is because it shows you how much more you get out of the same effort, whether it's the same ad spend or the same social media efforts. If you can take 100 people and get 35 of them to convert instead of 25 of them to convert, it just makes your life, that much easier. And that's why it's worth paying attention to.
Yes. And Leadpages makes it super easy because they actually have built-in A/B split testing, which I used for a while. Then I was like, meh, sometimes you focus on other things. And then I realized, why am I not using this feature? It would save me so much time. So I highly recommend if you get Leadpages or you have Leadpages, take them up on their A/B split testing because it's actually super easy too. So I don't know why I was like not using it to my advantage. All right. So this has been great. I learned stuff. I'm going to have to listen back, especially about the webinar stuff. I'm like, whew, I have so many ideas now and the hidden sections and all this stuff. So thank you for your time, first of all. If people want to, I know you have some of your own social channels that people can come and follow you on. And then also, if they want to sign up for Leadpages, what do they do?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there'll be a nice friendly link underneath of this recording. And there's actually 2 links that I want you to post. One of them is to get started with Leadpages. So we'll have a link for that. But the second is that you mentioned that a lot of your audience does like to blog. And there's always a question about whether or not Leadpages is best for bloggers to use instead of WordPress or to use in tandem with. And so I have a link to a blog post that I wrote about 2 years ago about how to blog with or without WordPress with Leadpages that I think would be super helpful for you.
That would be super helpful.
Yeah. And the bottom line is how often do you publish content consistently will determine whether or not you use them in tandem or you use them just Leadpages by itself. And the one thing we didn't really mention technically is you can have your WordPress site you might already have, and you put Leadpages on a subdomain of that same website that gives you the opportunity to have the best of both worlds. Or you can use our plugin and just publish directly to your WordPress site. So little technical stuff, just, food for thought for later. But in any case, use the links below to get your trial started up. We do let you try it out for free for a couple weeks, and then you can pick it from a couple different plans. I recommend that Pro monthly plan to get started with first, just because it gives you the features that we have, and then you can determine whether you need all of them or not. And then you can upgrade or downgrade before you actually start paying. And then that how to blog with WordPress. As far as connecting with me, I'd love for you to go out on social, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever, reach out to me. I'm Bob Sparkins. You might see me as Bob Jenkins. Historically, my wife and I got married. We merged our names together in a little portmanteau of Sparby and Jenkins to make Sparkins. But in any case, I'm at Bob the Teacher and pretty much everywhere. And then, of course, Leadpages is at Leadpages. We have a pretty active Instagram feed and Facebook community, etc.
Yeah, we'll be sure to link to all of this in the show notes. As always, again, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all of your knowledge with us.
You bet, Monica. It's been a real treat, and looking forward to connecting with you and your audience more.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Empowered Business Podcast. If you want to get started creating your own digital products and don't know where to start, we have a brand new training that can help. It's called 3 Secrets to Creating Digital Products That Sell Like Crazy. Head on over to empoweredbusiness.co/profit to join the free training now. See you again next week.